afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. My sister Theres teaches mental health workshops at Catholic parishes, schools, and religious congregations. She uses a simple verse from Scripture, Mark 12:30, to illustrate the different components of wellness. She joins us to talk about this. Sister Theres was born in Saigon, Vietnam, and immigrated to the U.S. at age 11. In 2003, she joined the Lovers of the Holy Cross, a predominantly Vietnamese community whose motherhouse is in Los Angeles. You can visit their work at lhcla.org. Sister Theres, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Marcus Peter and Ave Maria radio listener.
And I'm really glad you're here with us, and I'm glad you're well. I want to ask you to talk about your ministry. What led you to this? This is a very specific call, and I love the way that you're doing this ministry.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I'm very honored to have the opportunity to join in today and share a little bit about my work, but hopefully also benefit some listener. So we all know the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic, right? And so, I'm pretty sure prior to that, there's already people who are experiencing mental health issues, but more so after the pandemic, the COVID-19. There was a surge in mental health crisis, and then, of course, after the quarantine, it made it worse. And so there's a lot of cases of suicide attempts, and the mental health issues crisis just increased dramatically due to fear, isolation, and insecurity. And so my sisters we have a lot of sisters who are serving different parishes in the faith formation, and we started to notice a lot of kids coming back after the quarantine, experiencing signs and symptoms of mental health issues, and then our superior reached out to some professionals and see if there's anything that they can do to help. And we came across, or my superior came across LCSW, Paul Huang, who also shared with us that he has been receiving more phone calls on cases of suicide attempts, so he was also concerning. So now the issue is no longer far away, but just within our neighborhood. So we talk about okay, what can we do for our community here? And so we decided to collaborate with some professionals and volunteers to help people with mental health issues. So we started seeing clients at our ministry center, and then sometime I host workshops. But I started to notice that if I stay at our center, I can't reach too many people, right? And it's always the same people or that listen or that learn about mental health. And so that's when we started to go out. So, and then I started to get more invitations to parishes. Sometimes majority is in Southern California, which is in 3 dioceses, Orange, San Bernardino, and Los Angeles. And then we got invitations to other states as well. So right now, majority of my time is actually, doing workshops to bring mental health awareness. Hopefully, people get to know what is mental health, which is not just mental illness, and have some of the skills that they actually can practice on a regular basis to maintain their wellness before they have to go to therapy. Yes. And of course, should they need help, there are ways that they can reach out for help. And of course, depends on where they reside, because each state would have different requirements.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That gives us a real idea into the structure of your work. One of the things that stands out is the way you incorporate Scripture, especially Mark 12:30. Tell us about why that verse and why that's so prevalent to the work that you do.
Yes, thank you. So I'm very privileged to be exposed to the spiritual life, scriptures, learning, and also I was also a trained spiritual director, so I'm more familiar with the spiritual life. But then when I started to learn more about the psychology and the practice of mental health, and then I read more into research that tells us about things that is actually good for our mental health, it all goes back to the four main components that I see, which remind me of this particular gospel, which talk about, loving God with your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, right? And so how I actually use it in my work is in the workshop. I don't just focus on signs and giving people signs and symptoms of unwellness. I also find opportunities to provide them actual practical things that they can actually do at home. So I try to incorporate all those four components, which is the physical level. So I let them play some games or even dancing. And then with the heart, I give them time to just express just their fear, their feelings, anxiety, whatever that is, kind of they are going through, and I also learning techniques to process the emotions, but through sharing they feel connected, and so that's how I get people to work on that area. And then also with the mind, of course, I give them a lot of information, knowledge, it's called psychoeducation, where people can learn more about how the mind works and what are some of the particular things or very simple things that we actually can do to keep our mind sound. And then also, of course, prayer. We all know, and even when I went to school actually with a secular or private secular school. But they talk about the importance of spirituality in mental health too. But a lot of the therapists are not, because they are not familiar with the spiritual practice, so they don't talk too much about that. However, science has been proven that people with faith are more likely to well, first of all, they would heal or recover faster, and then they're more unlikely to do to self-harm or suicide. And so I try to also incorporate that into the workshops or in whatever way that I can, by perhaps lead them into some sort of meditation, because meditation, again, science has proven that it helps the brain to release certain chemicals that help them to be more focused. They also learn in less stress. They're more calm, less stress, more focused. Therefore, they function better, And so depending on the time that's given to me, I usually try to incorporate all of those four components of our wellness of wellness into to that. So, and of course, I always bring the scripture. There's so many. Actually, you know what? It's interesting. After I practiced mental health, I went back to read the Bibles with a different mindset, and I saw there's a lot of things in the Bible that actually teach us how to stay well, not only spiritually, but also mentally. Yes.
Sister, thank you so much for making the time to share with us. And we're going to include the link to your sister's website on today's description. I've been talking with Sister Theres, who works in mental health. She's also part of a Vietnamese community, and she's joined us to talk about how scripture and the faith helps mental health work. I'm Marcus Peter.